let's talk about order of operations. So when I have my numerical expression, I can use order of operations to simplify. And we saw this a little bit before, but let's just kind of start from scratch and make sure we're aware. You've seen before our mnemonic. Mnemonic is something that's used to remember something. So for order of operations, a lot of you have used this PEMDAS to remember it. And that's, the P stands for parentheses. Sometimes there are brackets, or they're called brackets. The E stands for exponents. The M and D stand for multiplication and division, and those happen on the same line from left to right, and the A and the S stand for addition and subtraction. So just a couple quick notes here. We do parentheses first, and then the parentheses disappear once there's only one number inside. The parentheses are used to group numbers together. So for example, if I have this in parentheses, 4 plus 3, that's 7, right? So once I do that math, I don't need to put the 7 in parentheses because the parentheses were just there to group the 4 plus 3 together, so I knew to do it first. Okay, so you don't need to then write the parentheses around the 7. Now, a common point of confusion is this. So these are actually not parentheses in the same way we mean here. These parentheses are like grouping, like these parentheses group things together. What do these parentheses mean? Actually, this just means multiplication. Right? This is just a way that we write multiplication. For some reason, mathematicians decided there's like a bunch of ways to write multiplication. So this actually just says 4 times 3. This is 12. And if you see something like this doesn't necessarily come first. This just comes in order, like it's multiplication. Okay? All right. Next is exponents. If you have an exponent on a number, you take care of that right after the parentheses. Now just a couple notes on exponents, right? X to the 0 power, anything to the 0 power is 1. That's something we're going to talk about later this year. If you have an exponent of 1, that's usually not written because x to the first power is just x, right? Now what does it mean? Let's say I have 3 to the second power, or 5 to the second power, or 7 to the second power. What does that mean? It means you're going to take that number and multiply it by itself. So x to the second power means x times x, right? X to the third power means x times x times x. So let's say you see 3 to the second. That does not equal 6. Okay, it doesn't equal 6. It equals, this means 3 times 3. This equals 9. Okay, so just be careful. All right, multiplication and division. When we see multiplication and division, we do it from left to right, not necessarily multiplication first. So for example, here, I have multiplication and division. Those are my only 2 operations, and I do it from left to right. So because this is on the left, I actually end up doing this first. Okay, so 10 divided by 2 is 5. And then I bring down, look, I did this math, and I bring down times 4, and that equals 20. Okay, and notice even though I was tight on space, I went straight down. Okay, we're really going to try to get out of this habit of going like I don't write equals 20 this way. We always go straight down. Same deal with addition and subtraction. We add and subtract from left to right, from left to right. So again, addition is not always first. If the subtraction is on the left like it is here, 5 minus 3, I would do the subtraction first, right? And then I would bring down the addition, and I would do the addition next. Okay, so let's use our notes, do a couple examples together. I've chosen long examples just so I can kind of explain everything in just 2 examples, and then you're going to have a chance to practice. Okay, let's take a look at this first one. So what I do is I look at my problem and I say, is there parentheses? And in this case, there's parentheses, so I do that first. So I'm going to do this first. 5 minus 3 is 2. And now, I'm going to bring down everything else. Now look, I'm going to cheat a little bit, okay? Watch me cheat. This was first, this was parentheses. I can just copy down everything else, and I'm going to do it over here. But what I observe over here is, you know what? There's exponents. I know in the next step, I'm going to do that 4 squared. I know that's what's next because I know in my head, oh, exponents is next. So watch, I'm going to be a little lazy, and I'm going to do it in the same step. 4 squared means 4 times 4 is 16. So like, technically, this is like my first step and this is my second step, but I can actually just cheat a little bit and do them on the same step. All right, let's look what's left. I have division, I have multiplication, and I have subtraction. So I know the division and multiplication are going to happen next from left to right, okay, and then I'll do the subtraction is my last step. So here I'm focused on this, okay, now my division is on the left. So notice I have division and multiplication. Because they go from left to right, I'm going to do what's on the left first. So 16 divided by 2 is 8. I'm going to bring down my times 5 and bring down my minus 7. Now I have multiplication and subtraction. Multiplication happens first, so I'm going to multiply. And then finally, 40 minus 7, I'm going to subtract. And notice my answer is, this is numerical expression. There's no variable, so my answer looks just like this. It's just a number in a box, okay? Please box your answers. Okay, this one. Here, our focus is really on these grouping symbols. This is where a lot of people get confused, so I've included a lot of confusing things here. Couple things to point out. Right here, this is a fraction. So this bar right here means division, right? This bar right here means division. However, when you have something on the top of a fraction and the bottom of a fraction, that's as if it's in parentheses. It's like this, okay? It's like this. You can even draw them in to make your life easier. When you have something on the top and the bottom, you can't just start dividing. You have to simplify what's up here and what's up here first. So I'm going to do that first. So 57 minus 17, okay? That's what I'm thinking in my head is minus 7 is 50, and then minus the 10 is 40. So this becomes 40 on the top of the fraction, and 4 times 2 is 8. Okay, so I just simplified that fraction. Now I'm going to bring down this plus sign. Let's take a look here. Okay, so notice I've included 2 confusing things. I'm trying to do everything in just a couple examples. So let's take a look here. I've taken care of this side. Notice here I actually have a set of parentheses and also a set of brackets. What we do is inside first, okay? And this is kind of like always true in math. We always start on the inside. So I'm going to do this 5 minus 4. So look, I'm going to copy down everything else. I'm going to do 5 minus 4, which is 1. And notice that I just did that math and the parentheses disappeared because I did the math, so I don't need to write the parentheses again. These brackets are the same as parentheses. We just use a different shape just to show like, oh, this is one set of parentheses and this is the other set. Okay, next step. I have division right here. I'm going to go ahead and do that division. Okay, now look, technically, I still have parentheses left. So I'm going to do those, but what I notice is this plus sign, that's going to come last, right? Because we know addition comes last. So I can kind of treat like this as one problem and this is one problem until I'm ready to add them. So 4 divided by 8 is 5. Now here I have 3, and then these brackets, see how this bracket is right next to 3? That means multiplication. And look, I'm going to write it as parentheses just because, I don't know, I'm used to it. 2 plus 1, look, this is the math I'm doing next because this is inside parentheses, so I'm doing this. Okay, now, here's what I have left. I have multiplication and I have addition. Multiplication comes first. I'm going to just bring down the addition. And finally, I'm going to add, and I am done. Okay? It's your turn to try these problems. You're going to ask for all the help that you need. The answers are here, so you're going to make sure your work leads to the correct answers.